Well, meditation is, in a way, it's simply about learning how to be fully with your life. We think of meditation as, say, sitting down with our eyes closed and focusing our attention on our breath, or walking backwards and forwards on a path, watching our footsteps. So those are what we would call formal meditation practices. But meditation is much broader, and its purpose is much broader. So many years ago, this European researcher came to visit Ajahn Chah, our teacher, in Wat Nong Bapong in Ubon province. And he was asking all these different gurus and meditation teachers, three questions. Why do you meditate? How do you meditate? And what's the result of your meditation? And Ajahn Chah, he was quite amused by this very serious intellectual approach. And he kind of gave the researcher a bad time. But eventually he kind of teased him a bit in his usual way. But eventually he said, well, I want to ask you three questions in return. Why do you eat? How do you eat? And what's the result of having eaten? And the researcher was offended. Like, what do you mean? I'm asking you a serious question and you're making fun of me. And Ajahn Chah said, no, I'm not. Because meditation is food for the heart, is food for the mind. And so you might think of meditation as some kind of optional extra to life. But if you really want to be alive, then you need to pay attention to your life. You need to be there for it. And meditation is simply showing up for your own life, paying attention to what you feel, what you think, what you like, what you dislike, your relationships, your perceptions of the world, the way you work, all of this, all these different dimensions of our existence. Meditation is about learning to watch, learning to listen, learning to see where our mental habits create problems, attaching to like and dislike, believing in opinions, following desires and fears and aversions in an unconscious way. The more that we pay attention to our life and our mind and how the mind functions with the world, the more we're able to live in tune with things. And this is what you can call food for the heart, or what really nourishes us as a human being. So he said to this gentleman, I'm not making fun of you. Well, not completely. I'm not making fun of you. But I ask these questions because meditation is as essential to life, really, to being really alive, as food is for keeping the body alive. And the Buddha said, mindfulness is the path to the deathless, to the amata dhamma. Heedlessness is the path to death. The mindful never die. The heedless are as if dead already. So that's quite a strident thing to say, quite a emphatic, strong statement. And so people wonder, well, what does he mean? He say, if you're mindful, does it mean that your body's never going to die? It's like, no. What it means is, if you're mindful, if you're fully aware, then the mind doesn't get identified with all of the risings and passings away, the beginnings and endings, the births and deaths, successes and failures, gains and losses, loves and hates. That the heart is open and is free in relationship to all of the comings and goings of life. So, in a sense, he said, the mindful do not die. It's like the mindful, their hearts are open to all things. They're free from attachment to birth and death, as we would say in Buddhism, but they're free from attachment to being praised, being criticized, being rich, being poor, being happy or being unhappy. If you're wise, you can feel, a strong sense of grief. Just yesterday, someone was asking this question at a Dhamma talk. You can feel grief. Say that your mother's died or your father's died. You can have tears running down your face, feeling the sadness of your mother dying, but you can be completely at peace at the same time. It's a sad feeling. The tears are running, but you're absolutely okay. And to our thinking mind, you're like, well, that's impossible. Either you're really upset, like, oh, my mother's died, or you're really cold, like, I don't care. All sankharas arise and pass away, But it's not. It's that the middle way is where we feel emotion, we feel happiness or excitement, we feel fear or like and dislike, we feel grief. But the heart is completely aware of them and unentangled in them, and not identified with them. So that when we are, say, developing mindfulness, or anyway, full heartfulness, or when the heart is full of the present moment, the mind is full of the present moment, then, as the Buddha put it, we're really alive. And then to say the heedless are as if dead already. And the Thai word pramad means crazy, like drunk or crazy. Pramad, that comes from the Pali pamada. So he said that those who are pamada are as if dead already. It's like your body might be breathing and you might be moving around, you might have a high-powered job, but if you're heedless, you're as good as dead. You're not really there for your own life. You're with someone, but you don't see them. You just see your own projections about them. Is the guy attractive? Is he not attractive? Is he rich? What can I get from him? What does he want to get from me? Am I more handsome than he is? Or is he more handsome than I am? That you're not seeing the other person. You're filled with your own fears and projections. Even as a monk, you can have this kind of, is that person, have they got a higher rank than me? Are they not? Is their meditation better than mine? Or my meditation's better than him? I'm being interviewed by a TV program. I'm more special than that monk who's not being interviewed. Look at me. Then if our mind is heedless and filled with self-centered thinking, then you're not really alive. If you believe in those thoughts and invest in them, you're as good as dead, according to the Buddha's estimation. So meditation then is, we use the exercises like mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of walking, metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation. Those are all, say, particular methods that we can use in order to help bring our attention to the present moment. And then vipassana, loving kindness meditation, helps us to have an attitude of what I call radical acceptance, so that the heart is open to everything. It does not contend against anything. That there's the heart of metta recognizes that everything belongs, even that difficult person, they belong. That person who just took the best parking place in the car park, and I have to go and drive around and around and around to find another parking place. Even that guy, I can have loving kindness for. To have loving kindness for the pains in your body, or the say repetitive, obsessive thought. You can have loving kindness even for your own anger. Not that you like it, or that you are glad that it's there, but you recognize anger is part of nature, and obsessive thought is part of nature. Somebody's got to get the good parking space. Why shouldn't it be that guy instead of me? Why not? Sometimes I get the good parking spaces, sometimes I don't. That's the way nature works. So loving kindness, metta, is to recognize everything belongs. Everything is part of nature, mental, physical. So metta bhavana helps us to develop that heart that is wide, broad, and open. Then, say, concentration practices like mindfulness of breathing, or the mantra buddho, or walking meditation, they help to train the attention to stay with the present moment. Also mindfulness of the body that I was talking about before, that helps us to keep the attention trained in the present moment. And then vipassana meditation, which we call insight meditation in English, that enables the mind to explore the very nature of experience, how, say, the perception of this moment is put together. So in terms of vipassana insight, I would say right now there is sight, sound, I can see you, I can see the cameras, I can see the floor, the lights, I hear the sound of my voice, the sound, there's the purring of the air conditioner, and there's the other sounds in the room, the builders working next door. I'm feeling relieved that they're not drilling like they were yesterday, so there's the awareness of emotion and thinking, taste, smell, touch. This moment is put together in the mind. You might say, here we are sitting in Dhammaram on Sukhumvit Soi Klang, but also this experience is happening in your mind, in my mind. My mind puts together from sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thinking, memory, imagination, the language I speak, it puts together the world in this particular way. It takes these perceptions. So vipassana helps us to recognize, oh, this perception that is apparent here in this moment, this is put together, it's compounded. And this feeling of I as the experiencer, that too is something that's put together. That we are able to say there's seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, but also it helps us to recognize that, well, calling this me, the monk, speaking, or me, Ajahn Amaro, speaking, or this is my accent or my voice. When you, with vipassana, when you explore, well, I say this is mine, but who's the me? What is that me that is the owner? What does that look like? That which experiences a human body, this human life. Is that human? Is that a person? Is the mind that is aware, is awareness? Is it male? Is it female? Is it tall? Is it short? Is it English? Is it Thai? Is it American? Does it have a shape? Does it have any form at all? Does form apply? So vipassana helps us to explore the very structure of experience, how the mind puts together its world, moment by moment. And then in seeing how things are put together, it learns to recognize them, trains the mind to see the world in a different way. Because when we recognize that this is my version of the world, it's not the world, then if the more that's recognized here, the more I recognize, well, of course, other people are going to see things differently. Just because I see something and I say, oh, that's beautiful, doesn't mean that somebody else will say the same thing. When we don't see clearly, when there isn't wisdom, then we believe our opinions and our thoughts. So if I say, that's beautiful, and you say, oh, no, it's ugly, then I just assume you're wrong, or you're stupid. You have bad taste. Because if I think it, it must be right. That's the way we work as human beings. If I think it, it's true. If somebody else thinks different, they're wrong. If we have no wisdom, that's how we see the world. And that my nationality is the best. My language is the best. My favorite foods are really good. And other people's foods are kind of weird and not as good. So that's how we are when we're attached. So vipassana meditation helps us to see, well, that's just a personal impression. How could that be true for everyone? And the more we recognize what I experience is just my version of the world, the more it helps us to have compassion, kindness towards others, because why should my version of the world be the only real one? Why should this be the one reliable one? Why should I be the one person whose opinions are all correct in accordance with reality? What about everybody else? So when we develop insight, wisdom, it helps us to be more harmonious, to fit in with other people, because we are able to have, say, respect and gratitude for what others do, what they contribute, to have compassion and to have kindness, and say to appreciate that the opinions, the views, the experiences of others are equally valid, equally, say, important as my own. So that in terms of the how can meditation help, I would say it's meditation that's based on mindfulness, meditation that's based on living skillfully, like living according to the, say, the humanitarian values of honesty and respect. Well, in Buddhism we would say the 5 precepts, that if meditation is based on the 5 precepts, when it's based on bringing attention to the present moment, and it's based on letting go of self-centered habits, then it's definitely going to be of benefit to a person's life. Whether they call themselves a Buddhist or not is immaterial. Like at Amaravati Monastery, where I live in England, we have a weekly meditation class. We have people, Buddhist people, Christian people, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, people who are determined to be not religious at all, but are very dedicated meditators. I'm not a Buddhist, but you come here every week. You come here every week for 30 years. Yeah, but I'm not a Buddhist. They don't want to identify with a label, but they love to practice meditation. So these kind of methods and developing these skills is really just as a human being helping us to show up for our own life, and to be, and the more we're able to show up, then the more we're able to be, say, engaged and able to use the capacities, the abilities that we have. In one of the John Lennon songs, he said, and he was misquoting Samuel Johnson from the 300 years ago, but he said, life is something that happens while we're making other plans. So often we miss our life because we're so busy planning for something else that we're going to do. So we miss this because we're so interested in that. And so we miss our own life because we're busy either reminiscing about the past or planning the future. So the present is lost to us. And the present is the only place where we can really be fulfilled. It's the only place where we can be completely free and completely happy. So the more that we pay attention to the present, the more that we can be free and the more that we can be happy. Absolutely. And that's what, so Ajahn Chah would ask people when they'd say, oh, Lumpur, I haven't got time to meditate. I've got 5 kids and I have to work and the animals he's looking after, I've got no time to meditate. And he would say, do you have time to breathe? And they said, well, yeah, of course. They said, well, you've got time to meditate then. So basically, if you're alive, then you have time to meditate. And he spent about 40 years explaining these principles. And I feel it's a very helpful teaching for the world. Obviously, I'm a bit biased, he's my teacher. But I do feel it's incredibly helpful because what he's saying is that the skills of formal meditation, like concentration exercises and developing vipassana, spending time in retreat or spending hours in a day doing formal meditation, that really is useful. That does have a benefit. But it's like if you're learning a musical instrument, you spend a certain amount of time sitting on the piano just playing your scales, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. But you don't do that in order just to play the scales. You do that in order to develop the skills, so then you can play Schubert or Beethoven or Mozart, Rachmaninoff or whoever. You're learning the skills so you can actually make music, your music. And so that you develop those skills for the formal exercises, but then you can apply them moment by moment. And so if you listen to Luang Por Chah's teachings or read his books, then over and over, the way he's describing things is like keeping track of your aramanas, the arom, the feelings. Just noticing when you're feeling excited, noticing when you're feeling depressed, noticing when someone praises you, and they say, oh, that interview was so good, wow, you are absolutely the tops, that was great. And you, oh. Yeah. What's that feeling like when you get praised? As they say in English, the feeling of the cat that got the cream, that kind of, oh yes, I like that. Or when you're criticized, like and you're waiting for them to say, oh, that was a great interview, and they're all kind of busy with the wires and the cameras and no one's saying anything, and they think, oh, they didn't like my interview. And you say, so how did that go? Oh dear, I failed. Oh, they didn't like it. I was useless. Ah, that's terrible. I feel awful. What does that feel like? So that you're learning to be mindful of the flow of moods, liking, disliking, being praised, being criticized, gaining, losing, happiness, unhappiness, and throughout the process of the day, whether you're engaged in action, when you're watching how you do things. Do you start very quickly and then get tired and give up? Do you start slowly and carry on to the end? Do you arrive early and set up for yourself and other people, tidy up after everyone else at the end? Do you show up late and expect everyone else to have set it all up for you? Let someone else clean up after you? How do you do it? How do you operate? So you're being observant for your own life. And look at that. I always expect everyone else to set it up for me. Look at that. I'm 30 years old and I only just noticed that. or, yeah, I'm always setting things up for everyone else and I'm always tidying up. Why am I always the last one tidying up at the end? How come it's always me? I've been here for 30 years and I've only just noticed I'm always tidying up after everyone else. Look at that. So that meditation then becomes getting to know your own life, then the people around you, learning to recognize their characters, learning to be attentive to the group that you're talking to, the group that you work with, the company you're a part of, to be learning to know what's the right amount. Okay, when in terms of the time you spend on something, or the amount of food to eat, or if you spend too much time on video games, then what's your brain like for the next day? Yeah. What's the right amount? Okay, let's say a couple of hours of video games is fine, but if I'd spend 5 hours or 6 hours, I'm fried for the next day. Okay, so the right amount, the matanyuta, is okay. A couple of hours, that works. With food, with the time you spend with others, the time you spend alone. So these kind of say skills to develop as a well-rounded person, that all comes from watching your mind, being observant, learning to see how things work. So in that respect, meditation never has to stop. And so the exercises of say watching your breath, or doing jongkrom, walking up and down meditation, they help to sharpen the attention. But its main use is working with your kind of partners in the film company, or with your family, out on the street, dealing with the other people on the SkyTrain. That is really where we use the practice. And then we realize that, as Luang Por Chah again would say, you can suffer in every posture, therefore you can practice in every posture. Whether you're sitting, standing, walking, or lying down, you can still make problems for yourself. Therefore, you can also solve those problems, even when you're sitting, standing, walking, or lying down.